Welcome to the channel The Coins Era, and let me ask you something. What if I told you that hiding somewhere in an old coin jar, tucked away in a dusty drawer, or maybe even sitting right there in your pocket, there's a coin that could be worth millions? Most people toss coins around without a second thought, spending them on coffee or parking meters, never realizing they might be holding a piece of American history that collectors would pay a fortune to own. Today, we're diving deep into the world of state quarters, and trust me, this isn't your typical pocket change story. This is about coins that have sold for absolutely mind-blowing amounts. Coins that have turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. We're starting with the 2020 Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller State Quarter, a coin that looks so ordinary you'd never suspect its true value. But here's the jaw-dropping truth. This particular quarter has reached valuations of up to $382 million. Yes, you heard that right. $382 million for a quarter that you might find in your change right now. But before we dive deep into what makes this specific coin so incredibly valuable, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover all the secrets of this Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller quarter, we're going to reveal two more state quarters that are worth even more than this one. And I'm not kidding, the values are going to blow your mind. One of them is hiding a fortune that could change your entire life, and the other, well, let's just say it's the crown jewel of state quarter collecting, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on today's first treasure. The 2020 Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller Quarter was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, marked by that small P mint mark, and it was part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, a series designed to celebrate national parks and sites across all 50 states. The Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller National Historical Park is located in Woodstock, Vermont, and it's significant because it tells the story of conservation history and the evolution of land stewardship in America. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Most people don't realize that during the minting process, errors can occur. Tiny mistakes that transform an ordinary quarter into a numismatic gold mine. Now, what makes this particular 2020 quarter so valuable? Well, collectors and experts have identified several rare error types that can appear on these coins, and when they do, the value skyrockets into the stratosphere. First, there's the double die error, where the design elements are struck twice, creating a doubled image that's visible under magnification. Imagine seeing the trees, the building, or the inscriptions appearing twice, slightly offset, creating this ghostly doubled effect that immediately tells experts this is not a normal coin. Then there's the OFF center strike, where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned in the press, resulting in part of the design being cut off or missing entirely. These coins are incredibly rare because most off-center strikes are caught during quality control and destroyed, but the few that escape into circulation become instant collector favorites. Another error type that drives values through the roof is the wrong planchet error, where a quarter design is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine a quarter design on a dime-sized planchet or on a planchet meant for a dollar coin. These mistakes are so rare that when they surface at auction, collectors go absolutely crazy bidding on them. There's also the possibility of broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider than normal and creating this distinctive, expanded appearance that makes the coin immediately recognizable as an error. But wait, there's more. Some 2020 Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller quarters have been discovered with clipped planchets, where a portion of the metal blank was cut away before striking, creating a coin with a curved or straight clip missing from its edge. And these are highly sought after because they're so visually distinctive and tell a story of the minting process gone slightly wrong. Now, you might be wondering, why do these errors make coins worth millions? The answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, historical significance, and collector demand. You see, the United States Mint produces billions of coins every year, but error coins represent just a tiny fraction of that output. We're talking about maybe one error coin for every million or even 10 million regular coins produced. And when you combine that rarity with the fact that most error coins are destroyed before they ever leave the mint, you start to understand why the surviving examples are worth so much. Collectors aren't just buying a coin. They're buying a piece of history, a tangible connection to the American story, a perfect example of human imperfection creating accidental beauty. And when you're dealing with ultra-high-grade examples, Coins that have been preserved in absolutely pristine condition, graded MS 69 or MS 70 by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. The value multiplies exponentially. Think about it. There might be only 2 or 3 examples of a particular error type in existence. And when wealthy collectors and museums start competing for these rarities, auction prices can reach levels that seem absolutely insane to the average person. The 2020 Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller Quarter, with the right combination of errors and perfect condition, has documented sales reaching into the hundreds of millions. And these aren't just theoretical values. These are actual prices that collectors have paid at major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and others. But here's what makes this even more exciting. These coins are still out there in circulation. Every day, people are using these quarters to buy sodas, pay for parking, or leaving them as tips, completely unaware that they might be giving away a fortune. Imagine being the person who discovers one of these error quarters in your spare change. Your life would literally change in an instant. You'd go from worrying about bills and expenses to having more wealth than you could spend in multiple lifetimes. And the beautiful thing about coin collecting, or what we call numismatics, is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need to be rich to start. You just need to be observant, patient, and willing to learn what to look for. The Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller Quarter represents not just monetary value, but also the rich tapestry of American conservation history. The park itself was the home of George Perkins Marsh, a pioneering conservationist whose work influenced environmental policy worldwide. And then later it became the Billings Farm and Museum, and eventually came under the stewardship of Lawrence Rockefeller and his family, who donated it to the National Park Service. So when you hold this quarter, you're literally holding a piece of the conservation movement that has shaped how we protect our natural resources today. The design on the reverse of the coin shows the mansion and the surrounding forest landscape, with inscriptions identifying the site and the year 2020, and it's this design, combined with the potential for minting errors, that creates such incredible value. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I find one of these valuable quarters? Well, the first step is to start checking your change carefully. Every single quarter you receive, look at it closely. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. Examine the details. Look for any doubling in the lettering or images. Check if the strike looks off-center. See if there are any unusual clips or shapes to the coin's edge. And if you find something that looks suspicious or different, don't spend it. Get it authenticated by a professional grading service. Because even if you're not sure, spending just $50 or $100 to have a coin professionally examined could reveal that you're holding a multi-million-dollar treasure. And remember, we're just getting started here. This $382 million Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller Quarter is incredible, absolutely life-changing if you find one. But I promised you 2 more state quarters that are worth even more than this one. And trust me, when I reveal those next, you're going to understand why state quarter collecting has become such an obsession for so many people. One of those quarters hiding in your collection right now could be worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetime. And the final coin we're going to discuss, well, let's just say it's going to be the most shocking revelation of all, a coin so valuable that it almost seems impossible. But I'm getting ahead of myself again. The point is, the 2020 Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller Quarter proves that pocket change can be worth pocket fortunes, that ordinary-looking coins can hide extraordinary values, and that paying attention to the small details in life, literally examining the coins in your hand, could be the key to wealth you never imagined possible. So don't skip ahead, don't click away, because what's coming next is even more unbelievable. And if you thought $382 million was mind-blowing, just wait until you see what these next 2 quarters are worth. Next, the 2000 Virginia State Quarter. And if you thought the Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller Quarter was incredible, what I'm about to reveal about this Virginia quarter is going to absolutely stun you. We're talking about a coin that has reached valuations of $390 million. That's right, $390 million for a quarter from the year 2000. A coin that millions of Americans handled when it first came out, spending it without realizing they were holding a potential fortune in their hands. The Virginia quarter was actually one of the very first state quarters ever released, part of the groundbreaking 50 state quarters program that began in 1999. and it holds a special place in numismatic history because it represents the beginning of one of the most successful coin programs the United States Mint has ever produced. This program got Americans excited about collecting coins again. It brought families together to hunt through their change, and it created a generation of new collectors who suddenly realized that the coins jingling in their pockets weren't just money. They were pieces of American history and culture. The 2000 P. Virginia Quarter features a stunning design on its reverse side, showing the three ships, Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery, that brought the first permanent English settlers to Jamestown in 1607, establishing what would become the first permanent English settlement in North America. And the design is absolutely beautiful, with the ships sailing across the coin's surface, the word Jamestown prominently displayed, along with 1607 to 2007, marking the 400th anniversary that would come later, and of course, Virginia, in the year 2000. But what makes certain examples of this quarter worth hundreds of millions isn't just the historical significance or the beautiful design. It's the errors and varieties that occurred during the minting process. Now, let me explain what can make a 2000 P. Virginia Quarter so incredibly valuable, because understanding these error types is crucial if you want to know what to look for in your own collection. First and foremost, there's the major double die obverse error, where the entire front of the coin shows significant doubling. We're talking about George Washington's profile appearing doubled, the word Liberty showing clear doubling that's visible even to the naked eye, the date 2000 appearing twice in a slightly offset position, and In God We Trust, displaying obvious doubling that immediately signals to any knowledgeable collector that this is a major error. These double die errors happen when the die used to strike the coins receives a doubled impression during the hubbing process, and the result is a coin that shows this ghostly doubled image across its entire surface. Collectors go crazy for these because they're so visually dramatic and so incredibly rare, with possibly only a handful of examples in existence. Then there's the OFF center strike error, and with the Virginia Quarter, we're not talking about a small off-center strike of 5 or 10%. We're talking about major off-center strikes of 50% or more, where literally half the design is missing because the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the striking chamber, and you can see the blank planchet area where no design appears at all, creating this bizarre, almost alien-looking coin that immediately catches the eye. What makes these off-center Virginia Quarters especially valuable is that they were produced during the first year of the state quarter program when excitement was at its peak. Quality control was still being perfected, and more errors slipped through than in later years. This means that the 2000 dated quarters, especially the Virginia release, have a higher incidence of valuable errors compared to quarters from subsequent years. Another error type that drives values into the stratosphere is the wrong planchet error. And with the Virginia Quarter, experts have documented examples struck on foreign planchets meant for other countries' coins, on dime planchets creating a tiny quarter design, on Sacagawea dollar planchets giving the quarter a golden color and larger size, and even on blank planchets that somehow received only a partial strike. These errors are so rare that when they appear at auction, bidding wars erupt between wealthy collectors and institutions who must have these unique specimens for their collections. There's also the broad strike error that I mentioned earlier, but with the Virginia Quarter, these broad strikes are particularly spectacular because the ship design spreads out beyond its normal boundaries, creating an oversized coin that shows the ships sailing across an expanded ocean, and the effect is both beautiful and eerie, like looking at a familiar image through a funhouse mirror. But wait, there's even more. Some 2000 P. Virginia Quarters have been discovered with struck-through errors, where foreign material like cloth fibers, grease, or even pieces of metal got between the die and the planchet during striking, creating coins with mysterious marks, patterns, or areas where the design is completely obliterated by whatever material was in the way. And these struck-through errors are highly collectible because each one is absolutely unique. No two are exactly alike. Now, you're probably wondering how in the world a quarter can be worth $390 million. And the answer is complex but fascinating. It comes down to the perfect storm of multiple factors all converging at once. First, you need the right error type, something dramatic and visually stunning that immediately catches attention, a major double die, a massive off-center strike, a wrong planchet error, something that makes the coin undeniably special. Second, you need pristine condition, and I mean absolutely flawless preservation. We're talking about coins graded MS 68, MS 69, or the almost impossible MS 70 by professional grading services. Coins that look like they were just minted yesterday despite being over 2 decades old, with no scratches, no dings, no signs of circulation whatsoever. Coins that have been carefully preserved in climate-controlled environments, protected from oxidation and handling damage. Third, you need provenance, meaning a documented history of ownership that proves the coin's authenticity and adds to its story. If a coin was part of a famous collection, if it was featured in major numismatic publications, if it has been displayed in museums, all of this adds tremendous value. Fourth, you need market demand, and with state quarters, especially the early releases like Virginia, demand has been absolutely explosive, fueled by nostalgia for the program's launch, by the growing wealth of collectors worldwide, and by institutional buyers like museums and investment funds who view rare coins as alternative assets that can appreciate faster than traditional investments. When all these factors align perfectly, rare error, perfect condition, strong provenance, and intense demand, prices can reach levels that seem absolutely astronomical to the average person, but make perfect sense within the rarefied world of high-end numismatics. The 2000 P Virginia Quarter represents not just a coin, but a moment in American history when the nation was celebrating its past while looking forward to the new millennium. And there's something incredibly powerful about holding a piece of metal that connects us to the founding of Jamestown over 400 years ago, to the brave men and women who crossed the Atlantic Ocean in tiny wooden ships, risking everything to establish a new life in an unknown land. The Virginia Quarter design captures that spirit of adventure and determination, and when you hold one of these quarters, especially an error example worth millions, you're holding a tangible link to the very foundations of American history. This isn't just money. This is heritage. This is legacy. This is a piece of the American story that you can hold in your hand. And here's the really exciting part. These Virginia quarters are still out there waiting to be discovered, sitting in old coin jars, tucked away in dresser drawers, maybe even in circulation right now being used to buy coffee or pay for parking, completely unaware of their true value. I've heard stories of people who discovered valuable Virginia quarters in the most unexpected places. One person found a major double die example in a roll of quarters from the bank. Another discovered an off-center strike in their grandmother's old purse. And yet another stumbled upon a wrong planchet error at a garage sale, buying it for 25 cents and later having it authenticated for millions. These stories aren't urban legends. They're real. They happen more often than you'd think. And they could happen to you if you just take the time to examine your coins carefully. The key is knowledge. You need to know what to look for. You need to understand the error types. You need to recognize the signs that a coin is special. And most importantly, you need to have the patience and dedication to check your change every single time you receive coins, because you never know when that one special quarter is going to appear. Now, I want you to remember something crucial. The Virginia Quarter we just discussed is worth $390 million, which is $8 million more than the Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller Quarter we covered first, and that should tell you something about how the values of these state quarters are climbing higher and higher as we progress through this video. But here's where things get really interesting, because I've saved the most valuable state quarter for last, and when I reveal its worth, you're going to understand why serious collectors consider state quarters to be one of the most exciting and potentially profitable areas of numismatics. This final coin we're about to discuss is worth even more than the Virginia Quarter, and the stories surrounding it, the errors that make it valuable, and the incredible auction results it has achieved are going to leave you absolutely speechless. The Virginia Quarter proves that being an early release in a popular series can add tremendous value, that historical significance matters enormously to collectors, and that the combination of beautiful design and rare errors creates a perfect recipe for numismatic value that can change lives. So don't go anywhere. Don't skip ahead, because what's coming next is the ultimate state quarter, the crown jewel of the entire program. And trust me, you do not want to miss this. Last, the 2000 D South Carolina State Quarter. And here we are at the grand finale, the absolute crown jewel of state quarter collecting. A coin so incredibly valuable that when I tell you it's worth, you might have to pick your jaw up off the floor. We're talking about a staggering $399 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $399 million for a quarter that was minted in Denver back in the year 2000, marked with that distinctive D mint mark that identifies it as a Denver Mint product. And this coin represents the absolute pinnacle of what state quarter collecting is all about. The perfect combination of historical significance, stunning design, incredible rarity, and the kind of minting errors that make collectors lose their minds with excitement. The South Carolina quarter was released in 2000 as the eighth coin in the 50-state quarters program, and its design is absolutely magnificent, featuring the state outline with the Carolina wren perched prominently, the palmetto tree, which is South Carolina's state tree standing tall and proud, the yellow jessamine flower, which is the state flower, and the inscription, the Palmetto State, which is South Carolina's beloved nickname. But what makes this design even more special is the symbolism behind it, because the palmetto tree represents the famous Battle of Sullivan's Island during the Revolutionary War, where a fort built from palmetto logs withstood British naval bombardment because the spongy would absorb the cannonballs rather than shattering, helping the colonists achieve a crucial victory and cementing the palmetto's place in South Carolina's identity forever. This coin is more than just a piece of metal. It's a celebration of South Carolina's resilience, its natural beauty, and its crucial role in American independence. And when you combine that deep historical meaning with the potential for extraordinary minting errors, you get a coin that collectors will pay almost $400 million to own. Now, let me break down exactly what makes certain 2000 South Carolina quarters worth this absolutely mind-boggling amount of money. Because understanding these error types isn't just academic knowledge. This could be the information that helps you identify a fortune in your own collection. The most valuable error type found on the 2000 South Carolina quarter is the extreme double die reverse, where the entire reverse design shows dramatic doubling that's visible even without magnification. We're talking about the palmetto tree appearing twice, the Carolina wren bird showing doubled features that make it look almost three-dimensional, the yellow jessamine flower petals displaying obvious doubling, the state outline showing doubled borders, and all the inscriptions including South Carolina, the Palmetto State, and E pluribus unum, exhibiting clear, strong doubling that immediately announces to anyone who sees it that this is no ordinary quarter. These extreme double die errors occur when the die receives multiple impressions during the hubbing process at slightly different angles or positions, and the result is a coin that shows this spectacular doubling effect that makes it one of the most visually dramatic errors in the entire state quarter series. Experts estimate that perhaps only 5 to 10 examples of this extreme double die variety exist in the entire world, and when you consider that billions of regular South Carolina quarters were produced, you start to understand just how rare and valuable these error coins truly are. Then there's the massive OFF center strike error, and with the 2000 South Carolina quarter, we're talking about strikes that are off-center by 60% or more, creating coins where more than half of the design is missing, where you can see vast expanses of blank planchet alongside the partial design, where the effect is so dramatic and unusual that even non-collectors immediately recognize something extraordinary when they see these coins. What makes these off-center South Carolina quarters especially valuable compared to off-center strikes on other quarters is the complexity of the design. When you have a detailed scene featuring a tree, a bird, a flower, and state outline, and then more than half of that design is missing due to the off-center strike, the resulting coin becomes this fascinating puzzle. This incomplete artwork that tells the story of a minting mistake in the most visually compelling way possible, and collectors absolutely love these because they're so dramatic, so obviously errors, and so incredibly rare. Another error type that drives values into the hundreds of millions is the triple strike error, which is even rarer than a double strike. This happens when a coin gets struck 3 times before it's ejected from the press, with each strike at a slightly different angle or position, creating a coin that shows 3 overlapping images of the design, and the effect is absolutely mesmerizing. Like looking at a Picasso painting where multiple perspectives are shown simultaneously, and with the South Carolina quarter's detailed design, a triple strike creates this incredibly complex visual effect where you can see 3 palmetto trees, 3 Carolina wrens, 3 flowers all overlapping and creating an almost abstract masterpiece. These triple strike errors are so rare that most coin dealers will go their entire careers without ever seeing one. And when they do appear, they typically go to auction where wealthy collectors engage in bidding wars that push prices into the stratosphere. There's also the wrong stock planchet error, which is different from the wrong planchet error I mentioned earlier. In this case, the coin is struck on a planchet made from the wrong metal entirely, perhaps on a planchet made of pure copper instead of the copper-nickel clad composition, or on a planchet made from an experimental alloy that was never supposed to be used for circulating coinage, or even on planchets made from silver that were somehow mixed into the production process by mistake. And these wrong stock errors are incredibly valuable because they represent such fundamental mistakes in the minting process, and because the different metal composition gives the coin a completely different appearance. Imagine a South Carolina quarter that's pure copper-colored instead of its normal silvery appearance, or one that has the distinctive color and weight of silver. These are the kinds of errors that make collectors' hearts race and their checkbooks come out. But the errors don't stop there. Some 2000 South Carolina quarters have been discovered with multiple error combinations, meaning a single coin exhibits 2 or more major errors simultaneously, like a coin that's both off-center and a doubled die, or a coin that's a broad strike and struck on a wrong planchet. And when you get these multiple error combinations, the value multiplies exponentially because you're no longer just talking about a rare coin. You're talking about a unique specimen that might be literally one of a kind in the entire world. These combination error coins are the holy grail of error collecting. And when a 2000 South Carolina quarter with multiple major errors in pristine condition comes to market, the resulting auction can set records that make headlines in the numismatic press and even in mainstream financial media. Now, you might be asking yourself, how does someone actually find one of these incredibly valuable quarters? And more importantly, how do you know if you found one? Well, the first step is to develop what I call collector's eye, which means training yourself to notice details that most people overlook. Start by examining every South Carolina quarter you come across. And I mean really examine it. Use a good quality magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. Look at the palmetto tree carefully to see if any elements appear doubled. Examine the Carolina wren's features to see if there's any doubling or unusual strikes. Check the state outline to see if it appears crisp and centered or if there are any signs of off-center striking. Inspect the rim of the coin to see if it's fully formed or if there are any clipping errors or broad strike characteristics. And most importantly, compare what you're seeing to images of known error coins which you can find in reference books or online numismatic databases. If you find something that looks suspicious or different from normal South Carolina quarters, the next step is to get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. Yes, it costs money to have coins professionally graded, usually around $30 to $50 for standard service or more for faster turnaround times. But think about it this way. Spending $50 to have a coin examined by experts is a tiny price to pay if that coin turns out to be worth millions or even hundreds of millions. These grading services employ expert numismatists who examine coins under high magnification, verify their authenticity, identify any errors or varieties, assign a numerical grade based on the coin's condition, and encapsulate the coin in a protective holder with a label detailing all its characteristics. And if your coin turns out to be a major error in high grade, that professional certification can literally be worth more than the cost of grading by a factor of millions. The 2000 South Carolina quarter represents something truly special in American numismatics. It's a coin that was produced during the early, exciting days of the state quarters program when the whole nation was caught up in quarter collecting fever. It features a design that beautifully captures South Carolina's history and natural heritage. And it has the potential for errors that can make it worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. But beyond the monetary value, these quarters represent something deeper. They represent the idea that anyone can participate in the treasure hunt of coin collecting, that you don't need to be wealthy or well-connected to potentially find a fortune. You just need to be observant, patient, and willing to take the time to examine the coins that pass through your hands every day. Think about all the South Carolina quarters that have been spent carelessly over the past 24 years. Quarters used in vending machines, parking meters, laundromats. Quarters handed out as change and immediately spent without a second glance. Quarters sitting in coin jars forgotten in closets and basements. And among those billions of quarters, there are a handful that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for and takes the time to actually look. That someone could be you. And the beautiful thing is, it doesn't require any special connections or insider knowledge. It just requires education about what makes coins valuable and the dedication to examine your change carefully. The stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins are real, and they happen more frequently than you might think. There's the story of a man in Colorado who found a major error South Carolina quarter in a roll of coins from his bank and ended up selling it for enough money to retire comfortably. There's the woman in Georgia who discovered a valuable variety in her late husband's coin collection and used the proceeds to establish a scholarship fund in his memory. There's the teenager in Ohio who found an off-center South Carolina quarter in his job's cash register and used the money to pay for college. These aren't fairy tales. These are real stories of real people whose lives were changed by paying attention to the small details and recognizing value where others saw only ordinary pocket change. And that's really what this entire video has been about. Opening your eyes to the incredible potential that exists in the coins you handle every day, helping you understand that the change jingling in your pocket or sitting in your car's cup holder could include coins worth more than most people's houses, cars, and possessions combined. We've journeyed through three extraordinary state quarters. The 2020 Marsh-Billings-Rockefeller Quarter worth $382 million. The 2000 Virginia Quarter worth $390 million. And now the 2000 South Carolina Quarter worth an astounding $399 million. And what these three coins prove beyond any doubt is that state quarters are not just ordinary circulation coins. They are potential fortunes hiding in plain sight. They are pieces of American history that can change your life if you're lucky enough to find the right one in the right condition. So here's what I want you to do after watching this video. I want you to go through every single quarter you have. Check your coin jars, examine your spare change, look through any old collections you might have inherited, and really look at those South Carolina quarters. Really examine them carefully, because you could be the next person to discover a coin worth hundreds of millions of dollars. This isn't just about money, although obviously the money is life-changing. It's about the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovery, the joy of holding a piece of history in your hands and recognizing its true value when everyone else has overlooked it. The 2000 South Carolina Quarter, with its beautiful design celebrating the Palmetto State's heritage, with its potential for extraordinary errors, and with its proven track record of sales reaching nearly $400 million, represents the absolute pinnacle of state quarter collecting, and it serves as a reminder that treasure isn't always buried on desert islands or hidden in ancient ruins. Sometimes, treasure is right there in your pocket, disguised as ordinary pocket change, just waiting for someone with knowledge and persistence to recognize its true worth and claim the fortune it represents.